Our last witness is Mr. Daniel Naatz. He is the Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer for the Independent Petroleum Association of America, and he's stationed right here in Washington, D.C. Mr. Naatz, you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Stauber, Ranking Member Ansari, and the members of the Subcommittee on Energy and Mineral Resources. My name is Dan Naatz. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer of the Independent Petroleum Association of America. IPAA is a national trade association representing thousands of American independent oil and natural gas producers. Our members, who operate in 33 states as well as offshore, are the primary producers of the nation's oil and natural gas and account for 85% of America's oil production and 90% of its natural gas output. IPAA's average company employs 20 people. Currently, of the 640 million acres of land that are federally owned in the United States, roughly 4% are leased for oil and natural gas development. Despite this small percentage, oil and natural gas have an enormous monetary impact on the federal treasury and the states. That revenue helps fund critical investments in communities across the United States and support jobs, schools, conservation efforts, and infrastructure projects. Included here are details regarding IPAA's support for 3 important pieces of legislation that are being considered today. IPAA strongly supports H.R. 1555, the Bureau of Land Management Mineral Spacing Act. This important legislation would streamline the permitting process for energy development, remove duplicative regulations, and respect the rights of private mineral holders when dealing with split estates. Currently, BLM triggers National Environmental Policy Act NEPA analysis for wells on state and private lands if any of the oil and natural gas resources being drilled are federally owned. The BLM has used this federal nexus as a way for the agency to become involved in state and private mineral development decisions. In addition, once the federal interconnection is established, a full cavalcade of Washington's regulatory agencies can become involved in projects. At a time when Congress is working to reform our nation's permitting system for infrastructure projects, this outdated policy moves in the opposite direction, creating more overlapping bureaucracy and red tape. H.R. 1555 removes the BLM permitting requirement in instances when less than half of the subsurface minerals within a drilling spacing unit are owned by the federal government, and when the government does not own or lease any surface rights within the impacted area. The legislation makes no changes to current royalty system and allows the federal government to receive royalties from oil and natural gas production within a particular drilling and spacing unit. Finally, the bill ensures that drilling and exploration activities are subject to all state laws, regulations, and rules governing oil and natural gas production within that state. IPAA also has a long history of support for the concepts found in H.R. 7831. The Energy Policy Act of 2005 set up a pilot program for BLM oil and natural gas permit processing improvement. The program has been working towards a cost recovery model which IPAA and many other industry trade groups have supported. Instead of relying on congressional appropriations, the program was funded through a higher APD indexed to inflation. The program was reauthorized with these changes as part of the National Defense Reauthorization Act of 2015, extending the Permit Processing Improvement Fund, the PPIF, and continuing the fee-based funding model. It's important to note that the PPIF has garnered bipartisan support in both chambers in previous reauthorizations, as the concept is sound. Industry pays their own way. Because of this unique model, APD processing is not funded by congressional appropriations in these areas. Without congressional action, the authority for the PPIF is set to expire at the end of FY 2026. IPAA urges Congress to pass H.R. 7831 expeditiously so this important program can continue. Finally, IPAA also supports H.R. 7882 that would provide for leasing of oil and natural gas resources within the city limits of Carlsbad, New Mexico. The municipality supports this measure and has advocated for changing existing federal policy. Currently, the Mineral Leasing Act prohibits the BLM from leasing federal resources underlying incorporated cities, towns, and villages. However, with the advent of modern horizontal drilling technology, wells can be drilled miles down and several miles laterally to access the federal mineral acres under the city of Carlsbad. Approximately 1,600 federal mineral acres under the city of Carlsbad are unleased. As a result, oil and natural gas producers operating around Carlsbad must avoid federal acreage when operating in the area. This not only causes inefficiencies for the operators, but also substantial loss of revenue for the federal government and the state of New Mexico. The city of Carlsbad has been extensively consulted about this legislation and supports the measure. In November 2025, the city of Carlsbad Mayor Rick Lopez wrote the BLM New Mexico State Director and urged the agency to take action to remove drilling restrictions for minerals underlying the city. However, the removal of the restriction cannot be accomplished via regulatory avenues and needs a legislative fix to enact the change. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to testify today.